At the scene of the Germanwings A320 crash in the French Alps, all 150 passengers and crew on board flight 9525 are thought to have lost their lives when the plane lost altitude on its way between Barcelona and Duesseldorf. It went down in the Alps near Seine-les Alpes. 16 passengers were students from one school in Germany, teenagers returning from a school trip in Spain. Well, this was the crash site before dark. Some of the debris up there in the snow, but most of it down below in the valleys and very difficult to reach, around about 2,000 metres up. French authorities have recovered already, they say, one flight recorder from the scene, but it is so difficult to get to this place that bringing down the bodies could well take significantly longer. Even harder, perhaps, with a storm forecast to move in overnight. This is where the rescue is being coordinated from, and it's very difficult for them to see anything in the darkness and the cold. And with the rain coming, Jackie Rowland reports from Seine-les Alpes.
In a remote alpine valley, the shattered debris of Germanwings flight 9525 is strewn across the hillside. Nobody could have survived a crash like this, and in this difficult terrain, retrieving the bodies of all those on board will take days. You can just about make out the rescue workers struggling up the hillside as they try to locate the many pieces of the plane. Crucially, they have found a black box flight recorder. It should provide vital evidence as to why this disaster happened. At Düsseldorf Airport, relatives and friends have gathered to receive more information and to absorb the terrible news. The arrivals board tells the story. Germanwings flight 9525 never showed up. It was travelling from Barcelona to Düsseldorf, but crashed in the French Alps near the town of Digne. This is thought to be footage of the actual plane that crashed, an Airbus A320 filmed on a previous flight. The French President, François Hollande, was hosting the King of Spain on an official visit. That has now been cut short.
We will do everything in our power to understand the cause of the accident and recover all the victims from the crash site. The accident has taken place in an area that's especially difficult to access.
Germanwings is a low-cost airline owned by Lufthansa, and it flies mainly short-haul journeys around Europe. It has an excellent safety record with no previous crashes. The passengers on board flight 9525 are thought to include German, Spanish and Turkish nationals.
We are all deeply shocked and shaken. The flight of our daughter company Germanwings crashed at around 11 a.m. in the French Alps. Now our thoughts, feelings and prayers are with the loved ones of our passengers and of course our crew on this dark day for our company.
150 deaths have left so many families grieving across Europe. The town of Haltern in Germany has been hit especially hard. 16 teenagers and their teachers from a local school were on the plane, returning from a Spanish language exchange program. One community changed forever in a sudden moment of tragedy. Bad weather is threatening to further hamper what is already a difficult search operation. Heavy rain and strong winds are forecast, and possibly even snow. The search is due to resume at first light. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Seine-les Alpes in France.
The aircraft was on its way to Düsseldorf, and it's from there that Al Jazeera's Dominic Kane reports.
As reports came filtering in across Germany today of the disaster involving the Germanwings flight from Barcelona to Düsseldorf, concern was expressed at governmental level and at the airline level, but also amongst the popular level, and particularly in one community not far from here, in the town of Haltern am See, where local families were deeply concerned because one school, the Josef König Gymnasium School, had sent its Year 10 pupils, 16-year-olds, 16 of them, with 2 of their teachers, to Spain for a week-long cultural visit. And it has been confirmed that those pupils, those students and their teachers were indeed on board the plane. The school has closed for lessons. There will be no lessons tomorrow, but the school will be open to allow students to come in to talk about this tragedy, which has taken 16 students out of the community, 2 of the teachers as well, in a small town, a small community. Already there have been floral tributes, candles lit and left outside the school as a mark of respect to those who died. Lufthansa and Germanwings are looking into what caused this incident. The German Chancellor will be at the crash site tomorrow with the French President, with the Spanish Prime Minister, and they will all be looking for answers. And certainly that is something that everyone in Germany is now asking: what caused this plane to come down? They hope that the answers will come soon.
Well, now the opinion of Andrew Brooks, aerospace expert, director of Aviation Matters, who says that in these situations, finding out the cause of the crash can be a very long and drawn-out, difficult process.
If they issue a distress call, then that's totally different than if it, if you like, vanished off the screen. To not issue a distress call, not to send a transponder that basically says something's happened, implies a catastrophic failure. And that's the fundamental difference. Was it a catastrophic failure with all that implies, or was this a controlled something or other that they were unable to control? And until we know that, we don't know which realm we're in. An airplane doesn't suddenly go from straight and level, benign flight into a massive descent. It is inertia, there's all manner of things to overcome. So even if all 4 engines fail, or 2 engines, or how many of you've got, it will go down in a measured fashion, and you will have time to shriek, if only to tell people, I've lost my engines. If, on the other hand, you hear nothing, then it's even worse than that, and you're into, say, a major structural failure. This thing will have been flown and flown and flown. That's what you do. Unlike military airplanes that fly maybe 2 hours a day, this thing will be flying for its keep. So yes, it is quite elderly. Doesn't mean on the other hand the systems are not up to the scratch, or that the engineering is of low quality. Given this is, you know, Western Europe, Spain, France, Germany, and especially with the Germans, you can rest assured that this will be maintained to the highest standards. The poor old aeroplane, something happened to that the airplane itself will be saying, if it could speak, my goodness, what hit me? Because the airplane itself will not have collapsed, the wings will not have dropped off, it will not have suddenly disappeared in a cloud of dust, unless something made it do. Now, we can all speculate on what that might be, but there aren't many answers to that question.
There have been reports that Yemen's government's asked the UN Security Council to authorise military action to deal with aggression by Shia Houthi rebels. Well, the governor of Yemen's 3rd biggest city has resigned, saying that security forces loyal to Houthi rebels simply aren't following his orders, that they've mutinied. The rebels took over much of the city of Taiz on Sunday. They already occupy and control the capital, Sana'a. They say they plan to push south to the port city, Aden, where the country's president is trying to hold on to power. Well, at least 7 protesters were killed in anti-Houthi protests in the province of Taiz on Monday. Let's hear from Natasha Ganay.
They wore hats with the colors of the Yemeni flag. They chanted their disapproval of the Houthis in Taiz province. By day's end, several protesters were dead and dozens injured. Since the Houthis' arrival last weekend, people have made it clear they are not welcome. But the street may be losing to the heavily armed Houthis. The governor of the province resigned. His reason? Forces loyal to the Houthis refused to obey his orders. The Shia Houthis have been in control of Yemen's capital, Sana'a, since last September. President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi was forced to flee to the southern port city of Aden. Now the Houthis are continuing their advance beyond the capital and getting closer to the president. But they say they're not after the leader. They insist they're fighting religious armed groups. In the province of Marib, tribal leaders tell Al Jazeera they're managing to keep the Houthis out.
The tribes are so peaceful, and this gang of Houthis have dragged us into war with them. We will never leave our province, even if they kill us all.
Tribal leaders say the Houthis offered to negotiate. But with no success so far, the daily battles continue in the mountains.
We are defending our land, our country.
The Houthis are saying the same thing.